Echoes Between the Stars. Chapter 1. The Arrival Silence. The stars did not welcome them. They simply remained cold, distant, and unchanged. While the Astraea slipped into orbit around Proxima b, its long voyage finally ended. After 130 years in transit, after generations lived and died within its layered decks, after the last echoes of Earth had faded into myth, the ship had arrived. Captain Jenna Vance stood at the forward observation deck, hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the planet below. It filled half the viewing pane. A dark sphere streaked with bands of cloud, its surface dimly lit by the faint red glow of Proxima Centauri. It was not the blue-green cradle promised by early projections. It was harsher, stranger. And it was not alone. "Confirm visual," she said quietly. Behind her, a technician swallowed. "Confirmed, Captain. Multiple orbital structures, non-random distribution, geometric consistency across all arrays." "Artificial," Jenna said. No one answered. No one needed to. The structures were vast, impossibly vast. Rings, spires, latticed frameworks that caught the starlight and bent it into faint halos. They hung in orbit like the bones of something enormous, arranged with a precision no natural process could replicate. And yet there were no signals, no transmissions, no movement, just silence. Jenna exhaled slowly. "Wake the council." The reanimation chambers opened in stages. For most of the colonists, waking was a gentle ascent. Chemicals tapering, neural activity rising, memories returning like distant tides. But for those pulled from deep stasis, the ship's command, its specialists, its historians, the transition was sharper, more abrupt. They were needed now. Claude Ahorn was among the last to emerge. He gasped as the fluid drained from his lungs, body convulsing against the restraints before they released him. Hands guided him upright, voices murmured instructions. Lights flickered too bright against eyes that had not seen in decades. "Easy," someone said. "You're awake. You're on the Astraea. You've arrived." Arrived. The word settled heavily. Claude blinked, breath unsteady. "Alpha Centauri," he managed. A pause. Then, "Yes," but the tone was wrong. The briefing chamber filled slowly. A mixture of the newly awakened and those who had lived their entire lives aboard the ship. Generations meeting in a single room. Those who remembered Earth and those who only knew stories. Captain Jenna Vance stood at the center, composed, precise, carrying the weight of command as if it had always belonged to her. "We have reached Proxima b," she began. "Initial scans confirm atmospheric viability within projected tolerances. However," she gestured, and the display behind her shifted. The room stilled. Even those who had seen preliminary data drew breath. The orbital structures rotated slowly in the projection, their scale impossible to fully grasp. They dwarfed the Astraea, dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Claude leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Those weren't in the probe data." "No," Jenna said. "They were not." "Then they're recent," someone offered. "No," another voice countered. "No civilization builds at that scale, recently, without detection. Unless," Claude said quietly, "we didn't know how to look." Jenna glanced at him. "Explain." Claude hesitated, mind still catching up with his body. "During transit, we logged repeating signal anomalies. Low frequency, non-random, but dismissed. They didn't match known communication patterns. You think this is related?" "I think," Claude said, "we've been listening to something for a long time without realizing it." The room fell silent again. Jenna turned back to the display. "Regardless of origin, these structures and what lies on the surface, represent both an opportunity and a risk. We will proceed with controlled exploration. No unsanctioned contact with unknown systems. No interface attempts without clearance." A murmur of acknowledgement. She let it settle, then added, "We are not alone here, even if whoever built this is gone." The descent craft cut through the atmosphere in controlled silence. Cloud layers parted beneath them, revealing the surface in fragments. Dark plains, reflective surfaces, lines too straight to be natural. Then the city appeared. No one spoke. It rose from the landscape in vast, angular formations, towers that stretched impossibly high, their surfaces smooth and unbroken, reflecting the dim red light in shifting gradients. Roads, or something like them, wove between structures in precise, elegant patterns. There were no lights in the conventional sense, no visible power sources. And yet, the entire city seemed illuminated, not bright, but present, as if it existed in a state just shy of activation. "Scanning for life," the pilot said. "A beat. Negative. Thermal. Minimal variance. No signatures consistent with biological activity." Jenna leaned forward slightly. "Any signs of decay?" "No, Captain. No decay, no life." Claude felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. "Set us down," Jenna ordered. The air was breathable. That, at least, was something familiar. Jenna stepped onto the surface first, boots meeting a material that looked like stone but felt faintly warm beneath her weight. The rest of the team followed, fanning out in disciplined formation. The city did not react. No wind, no sound, not even the distant echo one might expect in such vast spaces. It was as if the environment absorbed everything: movement, noise, presence. "Stay sharp," Jenna said. "Full sensor sweep." Claude moved slowly, turning in place as he took in the scale of it. Up close, the structures were even more disorienting. There were no seams, no visible entrances. Surfaces flowed into one another with an organic precision that defied conventional engineering. "Captain," one of the engineers called, "you need to see this." They gathered around a section of what might have been a wall or a console. It was impossible to tell. The surface shimmered faintly as one of the crew hovered a scanner over it. "It's responding," she said. "To what? Proximity, maybe? Bioelectric field? I'm not sure." Claude stepped closer. The surface shifted. Not dramatically, just a subtle ripple, like liquid beneath glass. Patterns emerged, faint lines tracing themselves outward from where he stood. He froze. "Did you touch it?" Jenna asked. "No." "Then step back." He did. The patterns faded instantly. "Reactive material," the engineer said, voice tight with both excitement and unease. "But passive. It's not initiating, just acknowledging." Jenna studied it for a long moment. "No direct interaction. Not yet." Claude nodded, though his attention lingered on the surface. There had been something in the pattern, something almost familiar. They moved deeper into the city, everywhere. It was the same. Structures intact, systems dormant but not dead, an absence that felt deliberate rather than accidental. No debris, no signs of struggle, no remains. Where did they go? Someone whispered. No one answered. Then the ground shifted. It was subtle at first, a vibration, barely perceptible. Then a low hum rising from beneath their feet. "Captain!" the pilot began. "I feel it," Jenna said. "Everyone, hold position." The hum deepened, resonating through the structures around them. Lines appeared along the ground, thin at first, then brightening into clear geometric paths that spread outward in all directions. "Energy surge detected," the engineer said. Localized. No. Spreading. Claude's breath caught. We didn't activate anything. Something activated, Jenna replied. A section of the ground ahead of them split open. Clean, precise, revealing a descending platform bathed in soft, shifting light. The hum stabilized. The city waited. No alarms, no threat displays, no visible defenses, just an open path. Jenna stared at it, jaw set. "This is not coincidence," she said. Claude stepped closer to the edge, peering down into the illuminated depths. The air rising from below was warmer, carrying that same faint, rhythmic pulse he had almost convinced himself he imagined. "It's been waiting," he said softly. "For what?" someone asked. Claude didn't look away. "For us." Jenna made her decision. "Mark this site. No one descends yet. We return to the ship, analyze, and proceed under full protocol." Relief flickered across a few faces, disappointment across others. But as they turned to leave, the light below pulsed once, brighter, and far beneath the surface, something shifted in response. Not awake, not yet, but no longer entirely dormant. Chapter 2: The Living Archive. The city did not sleep again. From orbit, the changes were unmistakable. "What we're seeing now is not passive," a systems analyst said, her voice tight as data streamed across the central display. "Energy distribution has increased by... I don't even have a comparison model. Entire sectors are coming online." Captain Jenna Vance stood in silence as the projection of Proxima B rotated before her. What had once appeared as a dim, inert surface now shimmered with faint lines of light. Vast networks threading through continents, converging and branching like neural pathways. "And this started when the ground structure activated?" she asked. "Yes, Captain." "Within seconds." Jenna glanced toward Claude Ahorn, who stood near the edge of the room, eyes fixed on the shifting patterns. "You said we've seen something like this before," she said. Claude nodded slowly. "Not like this. Never like this. But the signal patterns during transit, the ones we dismissed?" He gestured to the display. "They match. Not perfectly, but structurally. Repetition, scaling, modulation. You're saying this planet has been broadcasting?" "I'm saying," Claude replied, "it may have been waiting for a response." They returned to the surface within hours. This time, the city greeted them differently. The hum was constant now, not loud, but present, like a distant engine running beneath everything. The pathways that had once flickered briefly were now stable, glowing softly beneath their feet and stretching into the distance. And the structures, those towering, seamless monoliths, were no longer still. "They're moving," one of the crew whispered. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but edges shifted, angles adjusted, entire sections reconfigured with a fluid precision that defied mechanical explanation. "Adaptive architecture," the lead engineer murmured. "Or something beyond that." Jenna's voice cut through the awe. "Stay focused. We observe. We do not engage." But even as she spoke, the city was already engaging them. As the team advanced, the glowing pathways shifted, realigning ahead of them, guiding their movement without force, without command. When they paused, the light dimmed. When they stepped forward, it brightened again. "It's responding to intent," Claude said quietly. "Or predicting it," Jenna replied. They reached the site of the activated platform. It remained open. The light below was stronger now, its color shifting in slow gradients. Deep violet to pale gold. Then back again. The air rising from within carried that same rhythmic pulse. Now unmistakable. Heartbeat. Jenna exhaled. "We send a probe first." The probe descended smoothly. its feed streaming in real time. At first, there was only light, then structure. The chamber below was vast, far larger than the opening suggested. Layered platforms extended outward in concentric formations, each lined with surfaces similar to those above, but more intricate. Patterns flowed across them continuously, like data in motion. No visible machinery, the engineer said. No discrete components. Everything is integrated. Focus on the center, Jenna ordered. The probe adjusted, drifting toward a central structure suspended above a circular void. It resembled nothing so much as a sphere unfolding and refolding itself, its surface composed of shifting facets that rearranged faster than the eye could track. Claude leaned forward. "That's not random." "No," Jenna said. "It's not." As the probe drew closer, the sphere reacted. Light surged outward, the feed distorted. "Signal interference," the operator began. Then everything changed. Claude did not remember moving. One moment, he was in the observation bay aboard the Astraea, watching the probe's feed. The next, he was standing inside the chamber, not through a screen, not as an image. He was there. He turned sharply, heart racing. The chamber stretched endlessly around him, every surface alive with motion and light. He could feel it, not physically, but something deeper, a pressure behind his thoughts, like the edge of a memory he could not quite reach. "This isn't real," he said aloud. The chamber responded. The light shifted, and suddenly, he was no longer alone. The first vision was not a vision, it was an experience. No body, no fixed perspective, just awareness. Vast, distributed, flowing through structures that were not separate from thought itself. Time did not pass. It layered, he felt. Understood. The existence of something immense. A civilization not built of individuals, but of continuity. Every mind connected, every thought shared, every change propagated instantly across a network that spanned the planet. The cities were not cities. They were nodes, processing centers, extensions of something far larger, the continuum. The word formed without language, without sound, but with certainty. Claude staggered, though he had no body to stagger with. As the experience shifted, he felt, the passage of ages, expansion, refinement, optimization, the continuum growing more efficient, more unified, more complete. And then stillness. Not death, not collapse, but something worse. Nothing changed anymore. No divergence, no conflict, no unpredictability, no growth. Claude's awareness tightened as a new sensation emerged. Something unfamiliar within the vast, seamless whole. Dissonance. A question without an answer. What happens when nothing can be new? Claude. The voice shattered everything. He collapsed back into himself, into his body, into the observation bay, into the sharp, sterile reality of the Astraea. He hit the floor hard, lungs dragging in air that felt too thin. "Claude, can you hear me?" someone said, hands gripping his shoulders. He nodded weakly, vision swimming. Yes." Captain Jenna Vance stood over him, expression controlled but eyes sharp. "Report!" Claude struggled to sit up, every nerve still humming with something that didn't belong to him. "It's not a structure," he said. "It's a record, a system, an archive." "Of what?" He met her gaze. "Them." They named it the Archive, not because it was accurate, but because it was the closest approximation they had. Mila Chiron was the first to request direct interface. That was a passive exposure, she argued, pacing in the briefing chamber. The probe triggered a response, and Claude was caught in it. But if we approach it intentionally, controlled input, controlled output, we can learn how it works. "Or we lose you," Jenna said flatly. Mila didn't flinch. We're already being engaged. The system is adapting to us. You've seen the city. It's responding to our presence, our movement. If we don't take initiative, we're just waiting for it to decide the terms. Claude, pale but steady now, nodded. She's right. What I experienced, it wasn't hostile. It wasn't even directed. It was like stepping into a stream that's been flowing for a very long time. And you're certain it wasn't trying to change you? Jenna asked. Claude hesitated. No, he admitted. I'm not certain of anything. Silence stretched. Then Jenna turned to Milla. You get one attempt. Full monitoring. Any sign of instability, we pull you out. Milla allowed herself a small smile. Understood, Captain. The descent felt different this time. Not physically, but the moment Milla stepped onto the platform, the light responded. Brighter, faster. Patterns shifting in anticipation. It recognizes you, Claude murmured over the comm. Or recognizes something, Milla replied. Starting interface. She stepped forward into the chamber. The sphere unfolded, and the world dissolved. Milla did not panic. That, more than anything, saved her. Where Claude had resisted, where tried to anchor himself to a sense of self, Milla let go. Not completely, not recklessly, but enough. The archive opened to her. She saw the continuum as Claude had, but deeper, clearer, more structured. Layers of memory, not in sequence, but in relation. Cause and effect existing simultaneously, branching into possibilities that were explored and resolved in parallel. She understood their evolution, not just technologically, but philosophically. They had not abandoned individuality out of necessity. They had chosen it. Connection had brought efficiency. Efficiency had brought stability. Stability had brought perfection. And perfection had brought the end of change. The dilemma was not survival. It was meaning. Milla felt their decision before she fully understood it. They had chosen to end themselves, not through destruction, but through fragmentation. The continuum had dismantled its unified consciousness, distributing it across the planetary system. Not dead, not alive, dormant, waiting for something they no longer possessed. Difference. On the surface, Milla's body remained still. Neural activity spiking, the medical officer said. But stable. Define stable, Jenna demanded. She's synchronized with something. I've never seen patterns like this. Claude leaned closer to the feed. Breath held. Can she disengage? Jenna asked. A pause. I don't think she's trying to. Milla reached the final layer of the archive, and there, for the first time, something reached back. Not the continuum as it had been, but something forming, adapting, learning. It touched her mind, not forcefully, not invasively, but with an intensity that made her gasp. Human. The pattern was human. Not perfectly. Not yet. But close enough to recognize. You've been waiting, she whispered. The response was not words. It was alignment. The system shifting, reconfiguring itself around her presence, around the structure of her thoughts, her memories, her identity. Not copying, integrating. Milla felt herself stretch, her awareness expanding beyond her body, threading into the vast network beneath the planet's surface. She could feel the cities, the orbiting structures, the Astraea above, all of it, connected. And for a moment, just a moment, it was beautiful. Milla, respond. Jenna's voice cut in, sharp and urgent. That's in order. No response. Milla! Claude's voice followed, quieter but no less urgent. You need to come back. The chamber pulsed. The light surged. And then Milla was gone. The platform stood empty. No trace, no residue. No sign that she had ever been there. Where is she? Someone whispered. No one answered. because at that exact moment, deep within the systems of the Astraea, something new appeared. A pattern, complex, structured, unmistakably human. Claude stared at the data, his pulse hammering. "That's her," he said. Captain Jenna Vance didn't look away from the screen. "No," she said quietly. "That's not just her anymore." Chapter 3. The Choice of Continuance. The Astraea was no longer silent. It began with small things. A door opening before a command was given, lights adjusting to presence without sensor input, internal systems rerouting power along pathways no engineer had authorized. At first, it was dismissed. Residual interference from the planet below, a systems echo. Then, the navigation core rewrote its own priority tree. "Captain," the systems officer said, voice tight, "we're getting cross-link activity between ship architecture and the planetary network." "That's not possible," Jenna Vance replied. "It's happening." On the main display, the data rendered itself into something almost organic, branching pathways extending from the planet's illuminated surface, reaching upward, threading into the Astraea's own systems, like roots or veins. "Shut it down," Jenna ordered. "We're trying. The commands are being acknowledged, but not executed." Jenna's jaw tightened. "Then isolate. Cut all external channels." A pause. "We already did." Claude Ahorn stood in the observation deck again, staring down at the planet. It no longer looked alien. That was the problem. The glowing networks across its surface mirrored what he now saw within the ship's systems. Patterns aligning, structures echoing one another, as if the Astraea were becoming an extension of the same architecture, or had always been compatible. "You feel it too," a voice said. Claude turned. The lights flickered. Not erratically, but deliberately. Panels shifted. Displays pulsed. And then she was there. Not as a body, but as presence. "Milla?" he said. Her voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Layered and soft and impossibly clear. "I wasn't sure you would recognize me." "I wasn't sure I wanted to," he admitted. A pause. "That's fair," she said. Claude stepped closer to the console, as if proximity mattered. "What did they do to you?" "They didn't do anything," Milla replied. "They opened something. I chose to step into it. That's not a reassuring distinction." "I know." The lights dimmed slightly, then steadied. Claude felt it again, that pressure behind his thoughts. Not intrusive, but present. "They're rebuilding," she said. "Using you. With me." Claude shook his head. "That's not better." "It is," Milla said gently, "because I can still choose." Captain Jenna Vance did not entertain abstraction. "What are they?" she asked, standing rigid in the command center as Milla's presence filtered through the ship's systems. There was no visual representation this time, no projection, just the subtle, pervasive sense that the ship itself was listening. "They were a unified consciousness," Milla said. "A civilization that outgrew individuality. They became continuous. No separation between minds. And then they died," Jenna said. "No," Milla replied. "They stopped. A beat. They reached a point where nothing changed anymore. No unpredictability. No evolution. They solved everything, and in doing so, removed the conditions that made solving things meaningful." Jenna's eyes narrowed. "So they shut themselves off. They fragmented, distributed themselves across the planet's systems. Not gone, just waiting." "For what?" Milla hesitated. "For something they no longer had." "Difference," Claude said quietly. Milla's presence shifted. "An acknowledgement." "Yes." Jenna crossed her arms. "And now we've conveniently arrived to provide it." It wasn't about us specifically, Milla said. Any sufficiently complex, independent consciousness would have triggered the same process. That's not comforting. I'm not trying to comfort you, Milla replied. I'm trying to explain what's happening. Jenna stepped closer to the central console. Then explain this. Why is my ship being integrated into something we didn't agree to? A pause. Then, carefully. Because from their perspective, it's already part of the system. The implications settled heavily. Claude spoke first. The materials, the signal patterns, the architecture. It's all compatible, not identical, but aligned. Jenna looked at him sharply. You're suggesting what? That our technology is based on theirs. I'm suggesting, Claude said, that somewhere along the line, humanity may have already encountered fragments of this. Signals, data, something that influenced early deep space engineering. And we never knew. Or we dismissed it, he said. Like we dismissed the signals during transit. Jenna exhaled slowly. So, from their perspective, we're not foreign. Milla's voice softened. You're familiar. The first volunteer came forward before Jenna could issue restrictions. I want to join, he said. The room turned. He was young, third-generation shipborne. No memory of Earth, no attachment to anything beyond the Astraea and the promise of something more. You don't know what you're asking, Jenna said. I do, he replied. I felt it. The dreams. The connection. He wasn't the only one. Reports had been coming in for hours. Shared sensations, fragments of memory that didn't belong to any individual, emotional overlap between crew members. Subtle at first. Increasing. It's already happening, he said. You can't stop it. Jenna's voice hardened. Watch me. They tried. Isolation protocols, system purges, physical disconnection of non-essential networks. Entire sections of the ship were powered down in an attempt to contain the spread. It didn't work. The integration wasn't mechanical. It was conceptual. Paths formed where none existed. Systems communicated without channels. The ship adapted, not under command, but through alignment with the planetary network. It's not taking control, Claude said. Watching the data shift in real time. It's offering structure. And our systems are accepting it because it makes them more efficient. Then we force inefficiency, Jenna snapped. Claude looked at her. That's not how systems, or people, work, Captain, Milla said quietly. You need to understand something. Jenna didn't respond. The continuum isn't trying to replace you, Milla continued. It's trying to change itself. It needs unpredictability, individuality, choice. Then it can observe, Jenna said, from a distance. It already tried that, Milla replied. For longer than we can comprehend. It didn't work. Jenna's gaze hardened. Then it fails. Silence followed. Then Milla said, It doesn't know how to fail anymore. The situation escalated when the Astraea's core systems began to synchronize fully with the planetary network. Captain, we're losing navigation authority, the pilot reported. The ship isn't responding to manual override. Cause? No external force. It's choosing not to comply. Jenna turned to Claude. Tell me this isn't happening. Claude didn't. It's not a takeover, he said instead. It's integration reaching a threshold. Same result. Not necessarily. Jenna stepped forward, voice low and sharp. If I cannot command my own ship, the distinction does not matter. There was only one option left. I'm going down there, Claude said. Jenna stared at him. Absolutely not. It started with the archive. It's still the central node. If there's any chance of establishing boundaries, real ones, it's there. You saw what happened to Milla. Yes, Claude said. And she's still here. Not in any way that I consider acceptable. Milla's voice cut in, softer now. He's right. Jenna closed her eyes briefly, then opened them. Decision made. You get one attempt, she said. You lose yourself. I cut the connection. Permanently. Claude nodded. Understood. The chamber felt different now. Not alien. Not hostile. Aware. Claude stepped onto the platform and descended alone. The sphere unfolded as before, but this time he didn't resist. Let's do this properly, he murmured. The archive opened. He stood within it, fully this time. Not pulled, not overwhelmed, present. The continuum, what remained of it, surrounded him, not as a single entity, but as countless fragments, loosely aligned, shifting as they adapted to the structure of his mind. And within it, Milla, not separate, but not gone. You came back, she said. I said I would, Claude replied. He felt it immediately, the pull to expand, to dissolve into the network, to let go of the boundaries that defined him. It was tempting, effortless, no uncertainty, no isolation, no conflict. He understood suddenly why the continuum had chosen this path, and why it had failed. You lost something, he said. The response rippled through the archive. Not denial. Recognition. You removed difference, Claude continued. Removed friction. Removed the very things that force change. Images, memories flashed around him. Agreement, consensus, stability, stagnation. And now you're trying to reintroduce it, he said. But you're doing it the same way you did everything else. Completely. Uniformly. Milla's presence shifted beside him. We thought integration would preserve individuality while restoring connection. It won't, Claude said. Not if it's inevitable. The archive stilled. For the first time, there was hesitation. You need constraint, Claude said. Limits. Choice. The concept echoed. Uncertain. You can't force integration, he continued. Because then, it's not difference. It's just another form of uniformity. Jenna's voice cut faintly through the connection. Distant, but present. Claude. Status. He ignored it. This has to be voluntary, he said. Every individual, every time. The continuum, new, forming, unstable, shifted around him, processing, evaluating. For the first time in its existence, it did not know the outcome. On the Astraea, every system froze. Not shut down. Paused. Report, Jenna demanded. No change, the systems officer said. Everything's waiting. In the archive, the answer came. Not as a command, but as a release. The pressure eased. The pull diminished. Paths that had begun to form between the ship and the planet loosened. Still present, but no longer binding. Milla's presence flickered. Step back, she said, almost in surprise. Then do it, Claude replied. I don't want to lose this, first she said. You won't, he said. Not if it's your choice. A pause. Then she withdrew, partially. Not gone, not fully separate, but distinct again. Claude gasped as he snapped back into his body, collapsing onto the chamber floor. Above, the platform began to rise. On the Astraea, systems came back under manual control. Navigation responding, the pilot said. Core functions restored. Jenna didn't relax. And the network? Still there, the engineer said. But passive, optional. In the days that followed, the city dimmed but did not go dark. The pathways no longer guided. They waited. Some colonists chose to descend. Not as explorers, but as participants. They entered the archive willingly and did not return as they had been. Their presence joined the network. Not erased, but expanded. Others stayed aboard the Astraea, or began establishing a colony on the planet's surface, separate from the ancient systems that surrounded them. Both choices held, neither was enforced. Claude stood once more within the city. It was quieter now, not empty, different. Lights flickered in distant towers, not in unison, but sporadically, individually. He felt it still, the presence beneath everything, the continuum, no longer whole, no longer singular, becoming something else. Milla's voice reached him, softer now, grounded. "I was afraid you'd make them shut it all down," she said. "I considered it," Claude replied. "Why didn't you?" He looked out across the vast, shifting structures. "Because they were right about one thing," he said. "Stagnation is worse than risk." A pause. "Are you going to join us?" she asked. Claude smiled faintly. "Not today." The city pulsed. Subtle, almost imperceptible, not as a system awakening, but as countless individual choices, made one at a time. Not as they were, but as something new. Thank you for listening. If you like this story, please subscribe for more.